in the Elite Eight. Uzan gets it in, gets it back, and he puts it in! What a play!
ESPN Radio 97.5, 92.5. Welcome into the bullpen. Brian McDonald, Cam Smith, Sean Mapes, and John Belmer here with you, reacting to the Cougs' 62-60 win over Purdue in the Sweet 16. They, of course, will now go on to face Tennessee in the Elite Eight tomorrow. That audio courtesy of, I believe the game was on True TV, one of the Turner networks. TBS with Andrew Catalan on the call. Great. And let's just start with the play itself. I mean, we always kind of joke sometimes. I think we've done Mount Rushmores on this, Sean, about, football things as Cam breaks his finger, I think. Football things.
That was his knee.
Yeah, it was his knee? Okay. Knee. Like football things we love to hear, like, the short passing games and extension of the running game. And that was there was a classic one of those, but for basketball, the inbound man is the most dangerous man in the play.
It is. Got to guard the inbound.
You got to guard the inbound man. And there was no one on Uzan as he inbounded the ball. Great play to get it into Tugler, who got it right back to Uzan for the easy lay-in and what ended up being the game winner for the Cougs. So a wild game, a game where it felt like a few times that the Cougs were going to put it away, but credit to Purdue, who just kept staying in it. Kaufman-Wren was great, and Lawyer was more of a first half guy, and then he kind of cooled off. But and then of course Smith, the point guard, had what felt like 35 assists during the game.
He assisted on every
basket in the second half.
Every
right?
basket in the second half.
I thought I remember that stat during the
15
game.
15 assists.
Yeah, I think it was
crazy.
I think it might have been 14 assists in the second half, and like Sean said, he literally assisted on every Purdue basket in the second half.
Well, and the crazier thing is the fact that I don't know about last night, but going into last night, he had literally played every single minute of the tournament except for 33 seconds.
Oh, he actually missed.
No, that was he missed 30 seconds of the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah,
he played every second.
I think he played every
that's
minute.
Crazy.
Yeah, he played every minute of the NCAA tournament.
Entire month of March, he hasn't been subbed out. But watching the game, it's like, would you sub this guy out? I wouldn't.
No,
the guy was awesome.
The Cougs didn't really have an answer for him. Their defense was good. I mean, they give up 60. In today's college basketball, where the best teams, especially in the SEC, are averaging 85. 60 is still a good defensive performance, but it felt like down the stretch, the Purdue had kind of figured the Cougars defense out to a bit, but Cougars came away with the win. Let's start with some of the performances by the Cougs. I mean, LJ Cryer, who I talked with, who was it? Chancellor Johnson we had on yesterday, on the Killer Bees. I had asked him a question about LJ Cryer because he wrote an article for him on the Cron. I mean, Cryer's been obviously a great shooter both at Houston and Baylor, but I mean, a brutal night. He started, I believe, check my notes here, I think it was 0 for 8. 0 for 7. First field goal was 5 minutes into the second half. Started 1 for 11 overall after that. And his first three wasn't hit until about 3 minutes left in the second half. I mean, the fact for the Cougs to win a game, and I think it just speaks to the depth that they've maybe lacked in previous years, because we know how injuries to guys like Marcus Sasser and Shed have affected them in the past. But they basically get absolutely nothing from their best scorer, and they still end up winning against a good team.
Yeah, and that is just the defense to keep them in this type of game. I mean, the total was 10. I think it was 10 points below the line pregame. So obviously, great defensive effort, which you come to expect from a Kelvin Sampson team. And then Uzan was
unreal.
Yeah, I mean, he was the best player on the court for the Cougs, and he was everywhere, even more than just the heroics in the last 2 seconds. He was kind of the engine of the offense. He made the 2 threes in the second half to take it from a 4-point lead to a 10-point lead, really give the Cougs some breathing room. Obviously, it ended up being tied with 2 seconds left anyway, but I guess the ability for the Cougs to have their best player, like you said, play so poorly, but still be able to turn over the reins of the offense to someone else who can run the offense effectively, that's something that no other Houston teams had in this run.
No, and like you know what you're going to get out of the Cougs. Like, that they're going to
defensively for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're elite defensively. You know that offensively, sometimes they're going to frustrate you because they do go on stretches where we saw like last night where they went like 5 minutes without scoring a bucket. Like that's going to happen. You know that they're not going to consistently hit those threes, but it's like every time you watch a Cougs game, you always hear the same thing from the announcers. It's like it's the hustle and it's the second chance points and it's hitting the boards. And that's exactly what they did last night with 16 offensive rebounds. Like they they are going to frustrate teams just solely based on the fact that they get so many second chance points, and that's exactly what kept them in the game last night. And so
the
it was
rebounding,
it was an exciting game. I was out with a friend watching the game, and man, everybody was on their tippy toes those final like 2 minutes. So, and that was, man, you talk about like a well-designed play. I mean, they were interviewing Sampson, and they were talking about how they were practicing that play throughout the week, and sure enough, bam.
Yeah, the broadcast mentioned that they were at the Cougs practice. I guess it was the day before or maybe that morning, and that they spent the last however many minutes of their practice like specifically working on that moments because, to Kelvin's point, and it's a good one, and I'm sure a lot of other coaches do it as well. But in a 60-second media timeout, you don't have time to draw up like in like run a new play. Like,
here's how you do this for the first
time ever, right? Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure a lot of other coaches do this as well. So I'm not saying that Kelvin's the only one, but I mean, what he drew up there went worked to perfection. Cam, you mentioned the second chance points. It was 12-5 in favor of the Cougs in terms of offensive rebounds. This stat page doesn't have the second chance points, but I know it was pretty dramatically in their favor. The weird thing, though, one of the things you mentioned about sometimes they can be erratic from 3-point is, I mean, that was absolutely true. And and I think in other years for the Cougs, but this year, at least in the regular season, you had 3 guys over 40% from 3 with Emmanuel Sharp and LJ Cryer and of course Uzan. But the crazy thing was, not only did LJ Cryer start 1 for 11 and just completely no show, but how many times did it feel like Emmanuel Sharp just rushed up a 3-point, like a contested 3-point shot? Like I wrote down in my notes at one point, what in the world is Emmanuel Sharp doing? He was so rushed.
Awful one in the first half.
Second half too, it was the whole game.
Yeah, there's one on the wing where they get an offensive rebound, kick it back to him. He is 100% covered, and he takes like a terrible step back.
And not only is he taking the shot contested, but he's like falling away, one-footed. It was like, bro, like, what? This is the Sweet 16. This is not the time to try out your one-handed fadeaway shots.
And I'm not saying it was as dramatic as when we saw the Rockets versus the Warriors, but it kind of seemed like it was going down
dramatic as 0 for 27.
It seemed like
actually made some.
It seemed like it was kind of trending that direction. It just seemed like they were just going down the court and just jacking up threes, and it's just like, yo, you do realize that you have exceptionally good big men.
Obviously Juwan.
I was that heading into the game, I thought that was going to be kind of their focus. Partially just because of the matchup. Partially, you want to get Kaufman Wren in foul trouble. You want to make him play defense, and you're playing in that NFL
when he's not
stadium.
Being subbed out.
Exactly, and you're playing in this NFL stadium where maybe, and we talked about this heading into the game.
Sure did.
Maybe the shooting could be impacted by playing in a dome, in Lucas Oil Stadium, the RCA Dome, Brian. And so I thought it was going to be more of a Juwan Roberts joint, and really it was Uzan kind of carrying the team.
Yeah, I was really surprised they only had 5 shots. I can't remember what show it was earlier this week that touched on the stadium topic, but they were literally talking about how they were talking about how when you play outside of a basketball arena, it can affect like your shooting because it's the sight lines. So
and
like
depth perception.
That's why I was like, I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. So I can see why some of the numbers are little percentage wise are like a little lower. But at the end of the day, they got the job done.
Yeah, and I mean, although like in what the stats last night bear it out. The Cougars overall shot 37% from the field. First half was even worse. They started off, they started off the game 5 for 12 and then went 2 for 12, really, and shot 30% overall for the first half. So that 37% from the game is actually a drastic improvement. But like I thought overall, because usually when especially in the Final Four, when they're using the whole stadium, you can feel, even watching it on TV, how cavernous and how like everything is spread out. But last night they weren't using the whole stadium.
Yeah,
a lot of it was like it was not only like curtained off.
Yeah.
And also they did the lights in a way to where past the first 5-6 rows it was dark. So I thought, I mean, I'm sure it was still a problem with their sight lines, their depth perception and everything. but it felt like I feel like I didn't want to give them the full excuse for that because it felt like they mocked up that or they formatted the arena last night in that NFL stadium in a way that would have helped the depth perception.
They went kind of perpendicular to a football field as opposed to in the Final Four where they just put it basically at the 50-yard line.
50-yard line, yeah.
Going long ways. So, yeah, they made a change. It did have a weird atmosphere, not just that the fact it was 75% Purdue fans, but
that's a whole nother thing.
But the like I guess it was the setup with the cameras and like you said, the lighting of it. It felt distinct from all the other games that were happening in basketball arenas.
And like I went to the Sweet 16 when it was here.
Humble brag.
A few years ago, and even just being a fan, it's really weird watching a game in an NFL stadium because they do black tarp half like the stadium off, and so you're just kind of like
for the Sweet 16,
you're just kind of like
which they've had Sweet 16s. I wasn't at this one. I can't humble brag like Cam. But the Elite Eight that was Texas and Memphis back in the Derrick Rose era, that was an energy.
I went to that one too.
See,
with good old Joey Dorsey.
Season tickets of it. Rockets legend Joey Dorsey.
Of course. Why would they deny Astros Uber prospect Cam Smith access to the game? Of course they're going to let
tripping a referee courtside.
So let's okay, now we're kind of close to a break, but I want to talk a little bit more about the Cougs here. Well, one thing, and then we'll carry over the rest of the March Madness to the other side of the break. I saw a lot of complaints about the end of the game on the play that resulted in the ball going out of bounds to set up the inbounds play where Uzan scored the game winner. Uzan had the ball because, of course, he was the only guy really scoring for the Cougs. And he tried to get up a shot. And before he put up a shot, he pushed off. And he 100% pushed off. I will not deny. But as I was, looking through social media this morning, especially with awful announcing, which must be run by a Purdue grad, it was unbelievable how bent out of shape people were about that one particular play. And it's always been one of my pet peeves in the way that, sports media fans, whatever, talk about sports, the blame the refs crowd. Did the refs miss the push off on Uzan? 100%. He pushed off. That probably should have, not even probably, that should have been a penalty. But you can nitpick through an entire 40 minutes or entire 48 minutes an NBA game of calls, and I've got multiple notes on my calls multiple notes on my sheet here where they missed calls that went against the Cougars.
Yeah.
Where the balance of it usually balances out.
I mean, every call in the first half was going Purdue's way.
I mean, there was
the basket or the non-call.
The basket interference was one of them that I mean, it was clear as day.
Yeah.
And the other one, there was a ball. I forget which Purdue player it was, but it was an out of bounds call.
Oh,
and they showed the replay, and you could clearly see going off the Purdue player's leg.
Yeah.
I mean, so okay, Uzan pushed off. Sure, fine. I mean, but just because that happened at that point doesn't mean that the previous missed calls are any less important. This thing balances out at the end.
If you're not going to call against Michael Jordan 1998, there's no way you call it against Uzan
Byron Russell
spot.
Exactly.
Byron Russell can't get that call.
Braden Smith, stand up, play defense.
Rando bearded Boilermaker can't get that call.
Yeah.
Sorry, Braden. I don't care how many assists you had. You're not getting that call if Byron Russell can't get that call. Justice for Byron Russell. I didn't anticipate myself going there today. Starting the campaign,
standing up for a Jazz player is crazy.
I know it's bigamy. It's bigamy. Growth.
Yeah.
I mean, you grew a lot yesterday during the show.
I did.
I've grown a lot since the show started at 12 o'clock. It's been
a big 14 minutes.
It's been a big 14 minutes for me. I've come to a place of understanding and content with my hatred for the Utah Jazz. All right. Let's carry over the March Madness conversation. A lot of things to talk about. The crazy games, dominant games from Duke and Alabama in the crazy overtime game with Texas Tech advancing to the Elite Eight today as well. That one, the Bullpen returns. ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5.
This is the Bullpen on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here are the producers of ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
Welcome back in ESPN Radio 97.5, 92.5. Brian McDonald, Cam Smith, Sean Mapes, and John Belmer with you here. And we got a caller line. The HRP listener line, if you want to call or text the show, weigh in on this March Madness conversation, talk about your Cougs, or later we'll get into the Astros and Rockets as well. You can reach us there. Again, call or text 713-780-3776. So before we get to everyone else in March Madness, Cougs will, with the win last night, advance to face Tennessee tomorrow, coached by Sean and I's ex, Rick Barnes. We'll have to watch him on the sidelines, which appears to maybe be for one of the final times. Apparently he's thinking about hanging it up pretty soon. But that what looks to be a pretty tough defensive matchup. Both teams make their living on the defensive side. Obviously Cougs going to be favored, but it should be a tough game. What do you guys see that Tennessee matchup breaking down as? What's the difference there?
To me, honestly, I was more nervous about Purdue than Tennessee.
Because it was a home game, or just because you like Purdue better?
Because Rick Barnes can't do crap in the NCAA tournament.
I've been on that bandwagon for a long time.
Oh, I know. That's why I was like, you two know better more than anybody.
But they did just kick Kentucky's ass last night, so I got to give them a little credit.
But still.
And they got to the SEC tournament final, like the best year the SEC's ever had.
Like, Tennessee's good. Like, I'm not saying that they're not good. I just, for some reason, I felt more nervous about Purdue than I feel nervous going into this game.
They're choking frauds. That's why.
I mean, I don't know if I think he's actually gotten one now while being at Tennessee, but I know at Texas he never beat a team seeded better than he never beat an opponent that was seeded better.
Seeder, yeah.
So it obviously would be the case here with Houston. So if that trend for Rick Barnes continues, then that would obviously play out in the favor of the Cougs. But let's move on to some of the other games last night. Crazy comeback in the Michigan State Ole Miss game to start things off. That lead got to, I think, about 10 at one point, but it felt like Ole Miss had control of it throughout. But Izzo does Izzo things and came back in big part due to Jace Richardson, the son of Jason Richardson, ex-NBA player for the Warriors and probably a few other teams. I mean, he was great. Like, first half didn't do much, but it ends up with 20 points on 6 of 8 shooting, including 4 threes. It feels like Izzo's just always in this spot, January, February, Izzo, April, May.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wasn't sure where my rooting interest lies, because obviously on the Ole Miss sideline, Chris Beard's there, and I kind of, hungry eyes at times, like, God, he should be our coach. They're about to beat Izzo. They're about to go to the Elite Eight. But what'd you guys think of that game?
I thought it was a great game. I mean, we've probably had, I don't know, now like double digits, close to double digits, like 8 good March Madness games, and it feels like most of them had been the last 3 nights.
2 games last night were the one we're talking about now, Michigan State and Ole Miss, and obviously Purdue. Houston was great.
Yeah, Tech and Arkansas as
Tech
well.
and Arkansas was great.
So
that game
we'll get
there.
to that. We'll get to that next. We'll get to that next.
This is another one, like you said, Izzo does Izzo things. You know that with a team like this, they're going a lot like the Cougs. They're going to play good enough defense to just keep hanging around, and they have an NBA player on their team with Jace Richardson. Like, they just have one of those guys who can go and get you a bucket. Honestly, going 6 for 8 last night, you're like, dude, you should probably shoot more if you're going 6 for 8 for 20 points.
It felt like he just wasn't even there in the first half.
Yeah,
it wasn't like he was LJ Cryer and he was taking shots and missing.
No, he just wasn't taking.
He just wasn't taking shots. And now I will give credit, because we talked about Houston's defense. I mentioned Tennessee's a good defensive team. Ole Miss was kicking their ass on the defensive side in the first half. It wasn't just that Michigan State, couldn't make shots. They were being mugged to the point where they couldn't get shots up, which speaks to kind of what you were saying with Jace Richardson was just completely taken out of the game in the first half.
Yeah. It looked like it was going to be the Sean Padula game where
that dude's got, to quote Bill Rafferty, onions.
Yes. And when every time, the last 2 minutes going down the court, and I was watching the game with my uncle last night. We're just like, watch out for Padula here. That's all. That's the entire scouting report is like,
white guy with a headband, stay on that dude.
Yeah, if it's a 3-point game, guess what? Padula's making a 3 to tie this thing up.
Yeah, 9 of 17 from the field, 4 of 9 from 3. Honestly, it felt like he made double that from 3. But you give him any chance to beat Auburn next round? I mean, Auburn has been, I don't know. There's just every round, like they end up pulling away in the final 10 minutes of the second half. But the first 30 minutes of their first 3 wins, it feels like, I don't know. Like, and again, last night, Michigan, I think it was like a 2-point game at half, and Michigan hung around for a little bit in the second half, and eventually, Auburn took it away. But I mean, if we get first, I mean, I don't know if Michigan State can score enough to stay with Auburn. I guess that's my concern. But I'm also not really haven't been impressed with Auburn. So, you give Michigan State a chance to win that game?
Yeah, I think they definitely have a chance. This is another one where it's a classic case of like the better team throughout the tournament or throughout the season can kind of coast and then hit the NOS at the very end and blow out a team. I just don't know if you're going to be able to do that against Michigan State.
I actually have Michigan State winning. They're in my
so. They were. I mean, I selfishly I'd like for them to win. I have some money on them, and they were also in my bracket in the Final Four. But I don't know. Like their offense is. It feels like if Auburn is able to take away Jace Richardson, like, what else does Sparty do to score consistently? That's kind of my fear.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to shooting with Auburn, but I mean, Michigan State's a good defensive team.
That feels like that could be another 62-60 game, like we saw with Purdue. With Purdue and Houston last night.
That 62-60, Michigan State wins. Once it gets past like the mid 60s, once it gets to
it gets to 75 plus,
then
it's
over. Auburn probably wins.
100%. All right, let's get to I think probably and arguably the best game of the tournament so far, Texas Tech and Arkansas. Whew. It really felt like John Calipari was going to come through there. But I don't know. I don't know what you guys thought of the closing moment. Obviously, Texas Tech had to have a good comeback, but Darian Williams with that 3. I don't know what the Arkansas defender was doing. Like, it wasn't like Williams was wide open by any means, but in that spot, he's Tech's best player. You know 90% he's going to take the shot. Why would you give him that? It was just a one-step difference between being completely covered, contested shot, and having just enough room to get the shot off. Like, why aren't you up in his face?
Yeah, he was probably 2 steps behind the 3-point line, and the defender was guarding the 3-point line.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's one of those things where
take a step up, man.
Yeah, and great shot by him. Feet like weren't 100% set on the catch too, and you just kind of put it up. So when he put it up at first, I was a little bit like, oof.
When he let it go, I was like, oh, that's what we're going with? Because there's like 11 seconds left.
Yeah,
like it wasn't like it wasn't like there was 2 seconds left. You have to get something up. There was 11 seconds left. It was like, and he'd been awful in that game. Like, it wasn't like he was on fire by any means. I mean, it was kind of an LJ Cryer situation. So when he let it go, it was like, oh, well, sorry, Tech. And then obviously it went through. But Cam, what'd you think watching those closing moments in regulation?
Never place a bet last minute.
Oh, okay. Sure.
That's why I was.
Were you live betting?
I know. I was literally on my phone like 5 minutes before the game. Like, all right, am I going to bet the over under and the money line on Arkansas because I have a good feeling about them, and literally placed the bet at the last possible moment that I could, and then bam.
You're feeling good for the first 2 hours of this game.
Damn right I was. I was like,
for a long time in that game.
Yeah. Great comeback by Tech, and then obviously the closing. Should Cal
have fouled?
Yes, you should foul up 3.
Even with 11 seconds, because that was kind of, I think the push. There's a lot of time left.
That is fair. Yeah, if you want to say with 11 seconds left, because I guess he did shoot it early enough. Maybe that's why he shot it like that. So
I wonder if Cal had said, look, if it gets down to 5, if it gets down to 6, run up and foul him. And maybe that's why the defender was a step back.
Yeah.
He was waiting till it got down to a certain, point in the clock.
Yeah,
there.
that could be it. And then also after Williams makes the little, I don't know, jump hook kind of bunny to give Tech the lead. And then DJ Wagner gets the ball with 7 seconds left, crosses half court about like 5 seconds left, and then just kind of like doesn't really go anywhere for 2 seconds. I think you call a timeout there.
Yeah, there was some criticism I saw there that people gave Cal to call a timeout there, but I get it. Like, it's one of those situations where if I see the team is, trying to maybe run a pick and roll, trying to do some sort of handoff, and they're just, things get boggled up because the defense plays it well, then I'm calling a timeout because I don't want them now kind of off balance chucking up a shot. But Wagner got that shot off. Now, credit to Hawkins. He played great defense on the play, but he got the shot off, running to the basket within about 10 feet. I didn't think it was a terrible shot.
It wasn't terrible, but you could see that it, like, I guess there's a point where the momentum kind of stopped for him. It wasn't like a clear line drive to the hoop. He did kind of have to stop and then take a pretty contested shot. So we saw what you can do with the out of bounds call out of a timeout last night.
I don't know if you guys know this, but the inbounder's the most dangerous guy.
Got to guard that guy. Now, yeah. I was going to talk about the inbound play again because it was a tremendous play.
It was yeah. I wish there was a way to run that on like 2K or something. I guess you possibly could, but I mean, yeah, that was a beautiful play. Let's get to Bama and Duke before we wrap up. I thought actually it feels crazy saying this because they got absolutely boat raced. Bama, I think, put up, was it 118 they put up? It was an NBA score.
113 to 113.
BYU actually played pretty well.
Yeah.
They just ran up against like an unstoppable juggernaut that night. I mean, Mark Sears, it wasn't just Mark Sears, Youngblood and Holloway off the bench also hit a ton of threes. I think they hit 11 threes combined between those two guys. But freaking Mark Sears, 10 of 16 from behind 3-point line. You add that to the other guys crazy. I just mentioned, and like, I don't think there was a team in the nation that could have beat Bama that night. Like, BYU was running really great action with their screens and their pick and rolls. They got a ton of things going to the basket inside the paint. I thought they were playing offense pretty well, but math just ran against them because they were trading twos for threes. Yeah, like, I don't know how you beat Bama on that night.
You don't.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't.
Just any team like on planet Earth, if they shoot 50 threes and make half of them, like,
yeah, what are you gonna do?
Congrats, guys.
You're just gonna have to go bid you and tip your cap.
Just like BYU, if BYU played any other team that night, they would have won. The fact that they almost put up 90 points and still lost is crazy.
Yeah. Alabama had time to call off the dogs, get sub guys out, give them a standing ovation. The other team scored 88 points.
Which I believe would have been more than Alabama had averaged on the season, because I believe they're around 85, 86. So BYU scored more than that, and they were still able to treat them like a directional score early in the season. That was crazy.
Yeah, and then Duke.
Cooper Flagg was
on another planet against Arizona. Arizona did claw back to make it close, but the score is a little bit deceiving in my eyes. I think Duke kind of handled it pretty without much of a sweat. And Alabama against Duke, you better shoot 50% from three again.
I cannot wait for that game. I don't know if you got. I mean, I say this next to a Coug in the city of Houston, but Duke Bama kind of feels like the national title game. Am I crazy to say that? I know Auburn's still alive. Okay.
I think you are crazy to say that. Florida's still out there.
I know Auburn's still out there.
But I get what you're saying. I guess to me,
or maybe it's the two teams with the highest upside, I guess I would say.
That's
if they're playing their A
fair.
game that night, no other team could beat them.
Yeah,
well, I think it's the two best offensive teams because honestly, Bama gives up a lot of
their
points.
defense isn't great. I mean, obviously, BYU scored 88 on them.
Yeah, and Duke's a little bit more balanced. They just have the best player in the country on their team, and a bunch of other really good players on their team.
Future Rocket.
Yeah, Con Knippel. Future Rocket.
Yeah, I'm about to say, Con Knippel
with the 11th pick. They're
maybe we get Proctor
or the big guy, Malinak.
Oh, Malinak. Yeah. I don't think Cooper Flagg. Man, look, I mean, I know Cooper Flagg's about
the Suns pick.
That's true. I know Cooper Flagg's about to win the Player of the Year. He already was, the ACC Player of the Year and all that. But I felt like that was, and so it feels really weird to say that considering how good he'd been this season. But that felt like a coming out party for Cooper Flagg, because we heard the broadcast talking about this during the game, that something John Shire trying to get through to him, like, hey, at times just take over, be the alpha. And sometimes, I guess in the past, and I didn't watch every Duke game this year, but I guess the thought was he was deferring to his teammates too much. But I mean, in that game, he at times you could tell when he would get certain players on him, he just knew they could. I mean, there was no one on the Arizona that night that was going to guard him. He was scoring. The rebounds were great. He was even leading the break, throwing up alley-oop passes. Had 3 blocks in the game. It was just an unbelievable all-around game from Cooper Flag.
Yeah, I mean, he scored 30 points and he stuffed the stat sheet. And like you said, I think Duke is one of the best offensive teams left in this tournament. They also might be one of the best defensive teams left in this tournament with the size they have everywhere. I mean, Proctor's the smallest guy that they
Yeah, like
start.
their
He's
entire
6'5".
lineup is what, 6'5" plus?
Yeah. So I think that Duke's probably I mean, it's either Duke or the Cougs as far as the best team in the country. Hopefully we get that
That'll be a
in the
Final
Final
Four matchup,
Four.
possibly.
And Alabama is just uniquely suited to give these guys a game just because of what we saw 2 nights ago with that 3-point shooting. That, hey, if they can do that, if they can
beat Duke if they
if they can
they
even
beat anyone in the country, they do that.
Shoot 40%, not 50%. I think they can still beat these guys. So yeah, it we talk a lot about the lack of upsets. The Elite Eight is all 1-2s and a 1-3 matchup.
I don't mind it at all.
The Cinderella Red Raiders are the only
Cinderella 3 seed.
Yeah,
the glass slipper still fits.
Yes, and I mean, as sure there's a lack of excitement kind of in that first weekend, but this second weekend has delivered.
Okay, I know we're late for break, but I'm gonna push this a little bit further because I've seen a lot of people.
How dare you?
I know.
Push it to the limit,
bro. It's Saturday. You haven't been on the show in 3 weeks. Don't tell me when to get out. This segment will be titled. This hour on the podcast will be titled "Attitude." No, but like I've seen people complain about, oh, where's the Cinderellas? Where's the George Masons and the Florida Gulf Coast? Like, yeah, and then they get to the Final Four and we get a crap game because they're going up against Duke now and they absolutely get slaughtered. Like,
give me VCU, give me Butler.
No, I was okay.
Wichita State.
I'm going to go Cam Smith humble brag. I was at VCU Butler. It was a horrible game. Neither
That's
team
not really
could shoot.
Humble brag.
No,
they're giving away tickets. To
I definitely wanted my money back at the end of the night. But yeah, I don't get what the first weekend. Yes, like give me the first round upsets. I was happy to see Drake get the win over Missouri, Colorado State. All that was cool.
Shout out to McNeese State.
Yes. But once we get to the Sweet 16 and especially like Elite Eight, Final Four, I mean, give me Blue Blood versus Blue Blood. This is a TV product. I don't want to see Duke against a 13th seed. Give me Duke versus Alabama. And then Duke versus Alabama. I mean this is it feels like the equivalent of rooting for
the house.
No, I was going to say like a 7-9 team that squeaks into the playoffs in the NFL to make the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, like the Seahawks?
Yeah, like,
years back with that Marshawn Lynch
and then
run.
go up against the undefeated Patriots. Like, is that really what we're rooting for? I mean, I give me the best possible matchup when we get to the best games on the calendar. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone in that, but I don't have this romanticism or this feel of loss that we don't have 11 seeds in the Elite Eight.
No, I am romantic about 11 seeds.
Specifically 11 seeds. 12 seeds can get bent. But
I'm romantic about Jim Larinaga. Actually, that's George Mason coach.
Jim Larinaga. Okay. All right. We got to get to break. On the other side, the Astros have played some games, 2 to be in fact. They split them. And thankfully, Cam Smith joined us here today before he goes out to the ballpark later today. But we'll talk about the Astros splitting the first 2 games of the Mets on the other side of the break. ESPN Radio 97.5, 92.5.
One hit. Cam Smith delivers. Pena first to third. He's safe.
ESPN Radio 97.5, 92.5. Welcome back into the bullpen. That audio courtesy of Space City Home Network in the voice of Todd Callis. You can hear on the Killer Bees every Friday around 4 o'clock with Joel and Jeremy. Cam Smith, his first pitch I think he faced as well, took it to the right side of the infield and moved the runner over to third in the process in the Astros opening day win against the Mets 3-1. A game that was a little shaky. Fromber, we'll go down the line here in a moment, but a game that started off great with Fromber absolutely shoved, looked like the dominant ace that he's been most of his time with the Astros, but then the bullpen was kind of what it was last year, and here we are. But the Astros get the split, lose 3-1 yesterday, and we'll go into weirdly the series finale later today. They're off tomorrow on Sunday, which is it's just weird.
MLB gives a ton of off days, like the first.
Yeah, that first week, just like there's other teams that play Thursday, then we're off Friday and play Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I think some of that is for weather, like for rainouts or snow. But
right, because early season there could be snow if still in Minnesota or whatever.
But
Houston,
we
got a roof.
They play in Dyken Park.
What is weird too? I didn't realize that Chicago had already played. Like Chicago and LA had played 2 games before everybody else.
Like
played
a week,
a
week ago.
I was looking at the standings and I was like, "What? 1-3? What the hell?"
Those games in Japan for regular season games.
I don't think a lot of people. There definitely more than a few people that woke up like, wait, how are the Dodgers already 2-0 on opening day?
What the hell?
Yeah. It was,
of course it's the Dodgers too.
They
just start the season with 2 wins.
Oh, just classic Rob Manfred stack and take for the Dodgers.
Yeah, and then
gave them 2 wins.
And then one last classic baseball, and then we'll get back to the Astros. But then I see, and this didn't affect me because I'm in market, but MLB TV just did not work
really?
Opening day.
Opening day?
Yeah, so a lot of people, if you live out of market, but when you see your team's opening day game, couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Got it for free from T-Mobile, though. So that's you get what you pay for.
So you're saying if you have AT&T, you can't get it?
Well, no, you just have to pay.
You have to
pay for it not to work. I have T-Mobile, so it doesn't work for me for free.
Was that a humble brag that you have
a T-Mobile plug?
Yeah.
Yes.
You could have had that in the rotation. Sean here for Prize Picks and T-Mobile.
Yeah.
I can't do the sound. You did way better. That's why I can't do live reads for T-Mobile. That's why you're going to get the big bucks from them. Congratulations on that. So Astros bats didn't come through yesterday. 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. Had the bases loaded with 1 out in the 6th, but didn't come through there. On the mound tonight, Spencer Arrighetti looking to build off a strong second half. Here's a random fact that I think will surprise people. This total. Because I don't think people viewed Spencer Arrighetti's rookie year as spectacular by any means. Now, you look in first half, second half, he was a completely different pitcher. But he had 171 strikeouts last year, which was 3rd best ever for an Astros rookie pitcher.
Wow.
I don't think people would have thought Spencer Arrighetti had a top 3 Astros rookie season.
Well, because we talked about this last week. The first half was just atrocious. Second half was
5.5 ERA first half.
What was there? There was like a 5 or 6 game stretch where he was striking out double digits. It was.
He was great in the second
July,
half.
August. He turned it on.
It was a complete flip of the switch for him. So Astros split those first 2 games. Series finale today. But let's get into what we actually saw on the field from the 2 teams. Well, maybe more so from the first game because I think half the city didn't see game 2 because of Apple TV. But your overall impressions, I don't want to ask Cam Smith what he thought of Cam Smith because that feels like there's some bias there. I don't know if he can. I think there's a conflict of interest here in the middle of this desk when we talk about a specific player. But Sean, your early impressions of Cam Smith.
Guy sucks. Oh no, wait, the right fielder.
Yeah, the right fielder. No, I'm not talking about No, I mean, hold on. Sidebar. Cam, don't listen. I totally agree on this one, right? I mean, sucks, but no, the right fielder. Sidebar over.
I mean, obviously, you see the talent there with the right fielder, Cam Smith.
It's gonna be all season long.
It is gonna be all season.
I did play right field too. So you're not gonna get out of this one.
The kid's 21. We're gonna do this for a long time.
No, that's not me.
No, I think you obviously see the talent with him at the plate. You see why he got kind of shot, rocket shipped up the through the minors. One tough play in right field. It was gonna be a good play if he made it.
The diving one?
Yeah, the like
Yeah.
sliding
I
catch.
didn't mind that one.
No, that to me it's perfectly fine, but there is a little bit of like, oh yeah, this guy.
I mean, I would.
This guy is playing like his 4th game in right field.
Yeah, like I would. I mean, if you're Joe Espada, I'd pull him over. It's like it's a 3-run game. It's the 7th inning. Like let's save that.
Play it
like,
off the hop, kid.
Yeah, like, play it off the hop. The bases are empty. You got a 3-run lead. Play it off the hop. Don't give the guy an extra base. That is a play you try to make when winning runs at second, ninth inning.
Yeah.
Then you try to make that so the runner can't advance. But in that case, in Hill, again, he's 21. He's played 5 games above the single A level. He's barely played in right field in his career because, I mean, half of spring training he was playing at third base, the position he came up with the Cubs last year. So, yeah, overall, I didn't mind that play. The one thing I've seen people talking about with Cam Smith, and this will be something we'll have to just kind of watch to see as it goes, is how often he hits it to the right side. And which I think in a lot of cases,
his first hit was
it was right.
Yeah.
It was between the first, or I guess it was past the first baseman. I can't remember where they were aligned, but yeah, it was to the right side of the infield, which I think a lot of times would be in his first 2 home runs. I believe 3 of his 4 home runs in spring training were also to the opposite field. But most cases I would see that as a positive. People would say, "Oh, hey, look, he can spray the ball to all fields." It's not an Isaac Paredes thing where he literally has pulled every single home run he's ever hit to left field. Like he cannot go the other way. I know the shift has been restricted in Major League Baseball, but Cam Smith in that way would be kind of an unshiftable player. But I've seen some people start to nitpick, which feels kind of crazy, again, considering how young he is and how little experience he has in professional baseball. But there's been a nitpick of that the way he swings, he can't pull the ball, and that would limit his power. Like, I mean, we know Mauricio Dubon called him like the next 60 home run hitter, which obviously a little bit crazy.
We'll see.
A little bit crazy. But like, if he is someone, to the critics' point, if he's someone that for some reason just doesn't pull the ball, tends to go up the middle or spray to right field, that would limit his home run power. But I mean, again, I feel like this is kind of much ado about nothing.
Yeah.
He's 2 games into his major league career, now 7 games above the single A level.
Yeah, he'll develop so much, not just over the course of his career, but just this year playing in a major league clubhouse with major league hitting coaches, with Jose Altuve in 2 lockers over, however,
Yeah.
and Yordan Alvarez. So I'm not too worried about his hitting, kind of profile. If anything, I would kind of prefer you be able to spray the ball everywhere and then learn to
And then
pull,
work on pulling the
as
ball
opposed to
for
vice
power.
versa. Because that,
Yeah.
I mean, how many guys have actually done that? It feels like, you have a million Joey Gallos out there where all they can do is pull the ball.
Right.
And
right.
so,
That's a good point.
so I'm not too worried about Astros Cam Smith.
Yeah, and I was gonna say the same thing as Sean. Like I'd rather him be able to go the other way and then work on being able to pull the ball, as opposed to like Paredes, where all he does is
Literally
pull the-
every single
'cause
home run he's ever hit.
What made Ichiro Suzuki an amazing hitter? He could go the other way
Yeah, I mean,
all the time,
the
and then he could pull it if he wanted to.
Freaking right fielder for the other team, Juan Soto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't pull the ball either.
Yeah, good point. But I mean, he still hit 40
Yeah.
plus home runs last
Yeah.
year. So, all right. So, other than Cam Smith, so let's get into some Astros thoughts. We'll probably carry this over. We'll see how it goes. But you mentioned Jose Altuve being a couple lockers down. I mean, we're guessing, we're speculating, down from Cam Smith. Early impressions of Jose Altuve, the left fielder. Now, he damn near tried to truck stick Jake Myers in, I believe, the first or second
It was the
inning.
first inning.
It was the
2
first
guys
inning.
on. Runners on second and third.
I assume we've all seen the play, but I mean, obviously, I think it's a little different because Jose Altuve is 34 and he's not a 21-year-old rookie like Cam Smith. But again, he's played, how many 10 games in left field,
maybe.
including spring training. So I don't feel overly alarmed by it because everything else I thought was smooth with him in left field. He made all the catches of the routine pop flies. He fielded it when it was hit on the ground in front of them. He's just got to learn when Jake's yelling at him, "I got it," to back the hell off.
Yeah. And it is funny to see the aggression that you see with him as a hitter, the aggression you see with him on the base paths, it is just translated to him being in left field where he's he's being super aggressive, probably definitely wrongfully so with the Jake Myers play. Makes the catch either way, but that still is Jake's ball. And later in the game, he called off Pena pretty aggressively on another kind of lazy pop-up between, shortstop and left field. But he's made all these plays. Again, just make the easy ones, Jose. We're not asking you to win a gold glove out there. Just, don't keep dropping them like you were in spring training. And there was a play last night, I think it was a Vientos double, where ball hit the Crawford boxes, and you could see Altuve kind of rushing it a little bit, and he just doesn't pick up the ball. Like he goes to pick it up like barehanded and just doesn't get a full grip on it and drops it again. I don't think it actually mattered. Just a small thing where, again, it is that aggression of like, I'm going to try to get this ball as quickly as possible to throw him out, even though there's no chance he's going to throw him out.
Right, it's off the
base.
wall. Vientos is going to get to second.
I do wonder if there's a little bit of like, hey, let's be more a little zen out there in left field. I like the aggression of him as a hitter. I don't want him to change his approach at the plate, but I do wonder if we'll see the mistakes he makes are mistakes born out of aggression in left field.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's played. I mean, again, it's been 2 games, but I think he's played pretty well in the off foot. It's the strikeouts for me that's a little concerning.
Well, you're not going to coach that out of him, and I would have that. I definitely
his first at bat was not good.
The sweeper that he you talked about in game one.
Game one,
the sweeper he chased out of the zone from
it was in the other batter's box.
Yeah, it was. But again, that's been who Jose Altuve's been since he came up in 2011.
That's true.
And look, I do think, again, I will allow that, he's played however many games, like 10 or whatever, including spring training in left field. So there's time for him to learn and adjust. But this might just be who he is as a left fielder. You mentioned the thing with trying to field the ball with the bare hand. We mentioned earlier about almost truck sticking Jake Myers. Like, he never adjusted that at the plate. He's never adjusted that at running the base pass. He might not adjust that in left field. I mean, I think we have to be willing to, if we're going to go with this experiment, and we'll see how long it lasts, depends probably on how second base hits. But if the Astros are going to go with this experiment, he's probably going to be doing the same things or close to the same things all season.
Yeah, and they should let him, because the thing is, it's like they already took him out of his natural position and put him into a position that he's never played for before. So like, you can't nitpick his play. It's like
I can nitpick whoever I want, Cam.
You can. They can't.
Don't you nitpick my nitpicks.
I won't nitpick your nitpicks.
Thank you.
But like, he's doing you a favor by playing the outfield. Let him do his thing.
Yeah, you've already done the hard part. Yeah. Like, you've already done the hard part of starting him opening day in left field. Like, you got to have a strong constitution to live with the mistakes.
Yeah, so let's talk about someone who didn't have a lot of mistakes. Framber Valdez was unbelievable.
Very good.
7 innings, no runs. A little shaky in the first inning, a couple runners on, but after that he settled in and was, classic Framber. I wonder if this is going to be a season to where in a contract year we see the best version of Framber. But what he looked like on the mound on Thursday. I was trying to think what day it was. Yeah, it was Thursday. But it looked like a guy that should be competing for, Cy Young Award. Like, I have we've spent past seasons, I think specifically 2023, where around that no-hitter he threw against Cleveland, he was very Jekyll and Hyde for most of that year. But everything else we've seen in Framber's career, including the 2022, where he had the incredible quality start streak. Last year, he was very consistent, I think, past the first few weeks of the season, and now start this year. I think let's just say it, Framber Valdez is a top 3 to 5 Cy Young candidate every single year. This is who he is.
Yeah, and he was cruising on Thursday too. Yeah, I think he's done everything you want. I mean, this is why I was kind of against trading him in the offseason. Like, I get that you're probably not going to pay him his next contract. You want to get something for him. But at a certain point, just having this high level of a number 1 starter for a team that's going to try to win the division, going to try to make the playoffs and win a World Series, like, this is a guy you need on your team. This is, like, to me, it's more analogous to when they play out the contracts with Carlos Correa and George Springer and all those guys, as opposed to a Kyle Tucker where you flip them and try to get a little a little bit of prospect help in the immediate. This is a guy that if they trade him, there's no way that they're going to find the Cam Smith of starting pitchers. Let's see what Wesneski's got, I guess. But
I don't think he's the prospect.
Yeah, but I think that you just have to live with, you're going to get an awesome Fromber year, more likely than not, if he stays healthy, which he has his whole career, and then you're probably going to say goodbye to him in the winter next year.
I hope at this point, I hope they don't anymore.
No, if you're going to trade him, I think now if they're 20 games under 500 in July, that changes everything. I don't expect that to happen, but I think you're past the point. I would have been okay if they traded him, not to renegotiate the entire offseason, but I would have been fine if they traded him if you could have gotten a package back like you did for Tucker. But at this point, I'd rather just see what he can do for this year's team and then move on.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you want to move on?
Well, because I don't think because he's going to be looking for.
He's going to get
5 years, 150. I mean,
Max. All right, give it to him.
No,
we're going to roll into next season with Hunter Brown as the number one. You got me up.
No, Hunter Brown was fine yesterday.
I'm going to start drinking after this show with that thought. There's no way in hell.
Okay, well, we got to get out, but let's carry the Astros conversation on this side. I got to find. I don't know if we need to be therapists for this Cam Smith, but apparently he has had it up to here with Hunter Brown. That and more on the other side of the break. If you want to join in on the conversation, hit us up on the HRMP listener line, 713-780-3776. Bullpen will be right back. ESPN Radio 97.5, 92.5. Welcome back in. Hour number 2 of the Bullpen. Brian McDonald, Cam Smith, Sean Mapes, John Belmer with you. I can't
Here
speak.
with you.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, speaking's not a big part of this role or anything.
Right.
So
we'll work on
if I butcher the English language, it is what it is. But if you want to join in the conversation, talking Astros right now, Rockets next segment, Mount Rushmore +1 coming up at 1:30. You can give us a call or a text on the HRP listener line, 713-780-3776. So before we went to the break, we discovered that Cam Smith hates Hunter Brown. So I'd like to dig into that a little bit. I think Fromber, so 6 years, 150, you're willing to pay that to a starting pitcher that's 31 years old already, be 32 next year? I'm more open to giving out the long contracts that the Astros have been willing to have been. I would have paid Kyle Tucker, but I would have paid Carlos Correa, even though in hindsight that would have probably been a mistake. But I don't know, a pitcher, we've seen what happens with, look how many pitchers across the league are constantly breaking down. Now, Fromber, I know, has been very healthy over his career. He's kind of been an outlier, but again, he'll be a pitcher that'd be 31, 32, and you're going to give him a 6-year deal?
Yes. First off, let me clarify. I don't hate Hunter Brown.
Hunter Brown.
I hate the thought that he would be your number one.
He pitched like a number one last year, May 5th on.
Yes, but I'm speaking more on the who they have behind him. And that's the same thing with why I would be okay with extending Fromber, because like you said, we've seen all these pitchers get hurt. Look at the Astros. Every year they have 2 or 3 starting pitchers hit the injury list. And it's just kind of with Fromber, he's been able to stay healthy. He's been consistently really good the last couple of years. So yeah, I would be very open to signing him to a 5 or 6 year deal.
Yeah, I just don't know if the market's going to be be in a place where that makes it realistic for how the Astros approach their contracts and their salaries. I hear you. If this was an open checkbook, if this was a team run by the group that runs the Dodgers, then sure, absolutely. If you can eat that loss, you can eat that loss. But we know the Astros kind of have a self-imposed salary cap to an extent. They don't love to go above the competitive balance tax. So, they've done it a little bit here and there, but not very often. So, I would not want to pay market price for a starting pitcher that's about to be 32. That's just kind of where I'm at.
For me, it's because the market has just exploded on
Max Fried got $200 million.
Yeah, Blake Snell, 32 years old, so he is the same age that Fromber is going to be next year when he's looking for a contract. Got 5 years, 180 million.
Yeah, I'm just out on that.
Yeah, that to me, I understand what you're saying about the security, because Fromber is probably the most, maybe in all of baseball, just the most secure number one starter as far as availability and consistency, and then obviously production too. But it's just the price has gone up so crazy on the starting pitching, the left-handed starting pitching from last offseason, that it just doesn't even seem plausible to me that they would re-sign him after trading away Kyle Tucker, after letting Alex Bregman walk this offseason, that they would then commit $200 million to bringing back Framber Valdez. So I don't even see it as and then it's going to be tough next offseason when we're having this conversation every day. It's tough for me to even to even entertain this conversation, because I know they won't do it. So I don't even know what I can't even discuss the pros and cons of it, because I'm just it's not going to happen. I
can't put myself in a thought process, a hypothetical world where they spend $200 million on the starting pitcher. And I would say this to you, Cam, I'm comfortable with Hunter Brown as my one. I think your pushback is not more so that Hunter Brown's the one. It's the depth behind him. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's what's behind.
So him, I would say I can't remember what his arbitration number Fromber this year. I think it was 20 million, something around there. I think they're still going to go out and spend, and plus they'll be getting Jose Abreu's money off the books. They'll be getting Rafael Montero's money off the books. Yeah. I think they'll go out and spend on a quality starting pitcher that's a 3 or a 4. It won't be the high-end Fromber that you're hoping for. But if Arrighetti takes a step forward, which I'll put myself out there, I do think he does, and he and Hunter Brown are your 1 and 2, and you go out and sign a quality 3, then I think that starts to become a rotation that you're fine with.
Go get a Brad Peacock is what you're saying.
Absolutely. I love Brad Peacock.
Poor Brad.
Every team needs a Brad
Every team needs a Brad Peacock. I think one of my favorite parts of having Brad Peacock was when They went to the White House in 2017. For some reason, of all the players that President Trump could have name checked, he actually said Brad Peacock, and so I got to use that as a drop forever. Especially since he said it weird. It wasn't
it's the only
just
last
Brad
name
Peacock.
that he could remember.
Brad Peacock. It was just it was very weird how he decided to say it. So that became a favorite drop for me when I was at another station in another life. But moving on from starting pitching, what about that was
in
surprising?
another life was just
it feels like another life.
It was very spiritual for some
Yeah,
reason.
well, when you worked with Rick Hamlin, the Baytown Batty, for the time that I did, it feels like a lifetime ago.
Did you say the Baytown Batty?
Yeah, Clint Sterner.
Oh, that's who I was thinking.
Okay.
You said Rick Hamlin.
Rick Hamla.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
He was an NBA TV. Well, he was only here for 3 months, so there's a reason why.
You don't know ball.
Literally, he's a basketball guy. No, he was actually doing radio in Atlanta, and then when Clint took over that show, they hired him to be his co-host. But he and Clint didn't get along, and that only lasted for 3 months.
Okay, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah. Anyway, but let's move from the starting pitching to the relief pitching, because look, last year I think Ryan Presley got the brunt of most of our hand wringing over the bullpen. In the bottom of the bullpen last year came out of nowhere to perform. Guys like Brian King and Caleb Ort and Taylor Scott surprised you with good performances. But at the top of the bullpen, Brian Abreu was pretty consistent for most of the year, although during the summer there was a little blip. But Ryan Presley was obviously aggravating at times, and Josh Hader, like, he wasn't. It was weird because, and this was, I think, a conversation we've had before, like, the save stats were still there.
Yeah, he was awesome in save stats.
He was awesome in save stats when you had a 3-run lead. But you also look at the numbers around that. You saw his ERA shoot up 2.5 runs from the year prior when he was with San Diego. And then it happened again where, so going back to Brian Abreu, he walks the bases loaded, eventually gets out. And then Josh Hader, thankfully, Juan Soto decided to chase the ball way out of the strike zone for strike 3 to end the game. But Josh Hader came in and immediately put multiple runners on base, allowed a run, and got lucky when Juan Soto chased the pitch with Pete Alonso on deck. But I'm not feeling any better about the bullpen after the first 2 games. How are you guys feeling about the bullpen, specifically the Abreu Hader combo at the back end?
Not great.
Okay,
not great. I mean, they're 2 games in the season, they're going to get it together. But for me, it's mostly Hader, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't last year game 1 he lose the game?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
we
almost saw the same damn thing this year. It's just like it's so nerve-wracking watching him go to the mound, and then, if, like you said, if you're not ahead by 3 or 4 runs, it's almost like you have no idea what the hell you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, like, it comes to, not to get into the whole save stat conversation, but it kind of paints the picture why the save stat is sometimes a worthless stat, because, yeah, you come in with the 3-run lead, you give up 2, you were at total last, but you still get the save.
Yeah, like,
right?
40 saves is great, but if you have 9 losses, like, that's terrible.
Yeah, that was part of it. And some of it is how he was used, because they're tracing the division for the entire year. That he would come in a lot of tied games, and he was awful in the tied games.
Yeah. The non-save situation.
Yeah, the non-save situation. And then in the save situations, I think he converted, like, he blew the save game 1 and then converted the next, like, 25 of them.
Yeah, it was the long streak.
And but in between would have performances that you didn't love in between. So yeah, to me, I think you just got. It is funny that you replaced Ryan Stressley with, like, maybe just
with more expensive Ryan Stressley,
another version of Ryan Stressley, just younger Ryan Stressley, where it's like because Ryan Presley, by the numbers, was one of the best closers in baseball. But I also think some of it's just Astros fans being insane. Just every time the game is, like, somewhat close, they're like, "What the hell is going on?"
There is definitely an element of that.
Like, the tying run is on deck. It's like, yeah, that's not crazy. That's just called having a 2-run lead.
Baseball?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because for going back a number of years, we had Billy Wagner forever, Brad Lidge outside the Pujols game. Like, we've had a number of really good closers.
Dotel.
The Octavio Dotel for, like, a season. Obviously, he was a really good setup man before that. we've had so many. We've been spoiled with so many great closers. The last
Ken Giles, yeah,
exactly, when he's not punching phones or whatever, breaking his hand. But we've had so many great closers that it is fun. You're right. You're 100% right. The meltdown is unreal. Like guys, this is what 90% of Major League Baseball deals with.
Like,
if you have a 3-run lead, 2 runners on base is not ball game over.
Yeah. It's not like oh my God, what's this guy's problem? It's just like that just happens. I don't.
Well, he walked the first guy. I mean, it's not ideal, but the game's not over.
I think it's more what they paid him.
Yeah,
like they gave
he definitely has a lot of like when people talk about him, the amount of money he makes comes up. Like it just is like it is just intertwined with how Astros fans view Josh Hader. Is he's getting paid $20 million,
and like you have to live with that now. So like there's no getting out of Josh Hader. So like there's gonna be a lot of anxious Astros fans the next year.
Yeah, it's just going to be impossible to separate that. Like Sean had said earlier, we replaced Ryan Stressley with a Ryan Stressley that now costs $90 million. Yeah. It's just like what? Yeah. Wait, what? Like, why we do? We just gave Ryan Stressley a $60 million raise and extended him 4 years.
I do wonder if that obviously it would be awesome if you did this. If Josh Hader did put together a year of, like a 1.9 ERA or whatever, like a classic Josh Hader year, like would people still, just because of first impressions of how bad he was last year, and just not how bad, but how disappointing it was last year.
3.8 ERA for a closer is pretty unremarkable.
But I just do wonder if like everyone's still in the back of their head just gonna be like, they wasted their money on Josh Hader. It's like
I think they will.
He's been good every other year of his contract.
Yeah, because how quickly it didn't matter. Like, because there's a couple years when they won the World Series in 2022. Like Ryan Presley had a little bit of a blip in like May and June, which culminated with a blow up at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah,
and then I don't know if you guys remember this, but after that he went on it's like a 30-inning scoreless streak, was completely unbelievable. And now obviously carried into the playoffs where he was the head of an unbelievable bullpen.
That gave up like one run
in the entire postseason, right? In Presley, especially Presley, Montero, and Abreu. And Presley was absolutely every part of that. People always remember Brian Abreu and Rafael Montero because I think they have PTSD with Ryan Presley, but he was every bit as dominant in that run as those two guys were. But yet, as soon as he gives up the 1 run and the 3-run lead, it's like, Ryan Stressley, here we go.
Oh my God, classic Stressley. It's like, again, when they replaced him with Hader, more or less last offseason when they signed Hader because Kendall Graveman got hurt.
God, what an overreaction move. That's whatever.
And the point was that like people were like, yeah, okay, they got no more Ryan Stressley in our lives.
Yeah.
And then you
look at they got left-handed $90 million Ryan Presley.
You look at the numbers, like it's really hard to improve off of Ryan Presley. I'm sorry.
Yeah, definitely a bit of being spoiled there for Astros fans. And look, I'm guilty of it at times as well. So I think we're all like, oh, here we go. But I think we do need to calm down at times. All right, let's talk about something that's been maybe a little more impressive than the Ryan Stressleys of the world. That is the Houston Rockets, who are still the number 2 seed in the West. We'll get into the Rockets and their recent play. What was the hell was that groan for, Cam? We're talking about the 2 seed Houston Rockets.
No, that was like a
a groan of affirmation.
That was an excited groan, like, damn girl, damn Rockets.
Like, let's get it going.
All right,
damn
Rockets. Let's talk about you on the other side of the break, girl. ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5.
This is the Bullpen on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here are the producers of ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
ESPN Radio 97.5, 92.5, talking about the Rock during the last break. None of us watched the I think that's unanimous, right? None of us watched the Roughnecks and the Battlehawks.
No, I did.
Night? You actually did watch it.
Yeah, 2
Johnny
minutes and 27 seconds of it.
Oh, see, that was a troll by Cam Smith. I look, Roughnecks, I kid. I actually went to a Roughnecks game, the 2020 version, the undefeated version.
The champs.
Oh, so did I.
Yeah, so
I
humble
went
brag.
to the
humble
first
brag.
game ever
Oh,
of
humble brag.
Yeah, the Roughnecks versus the LA Wildcats.
Wow, that feels like those kind of feels like names straight out of Madden Create a Team, but
they are. Basically what they did.
All right, but
AI generated.
We're not talking about the Roughnecks. I think lost to the Battlehawks.
Oh no, they lost.
They did lose.
Oh, they lost.
They lost. Well, you said you watched 2 minutes of it, so
well,
I wasn't
that's all I
sure.
needed to see.
Okay, all right. See, we don't need to troll the Roughnecks. All right.
Do better.
Okay, you got really high expectations for the Roughnecks. It is the USFL. UFL, whatever. It doesn't matter what their name is.
It doesn't matter.
There we go. We got it. We got him. We got the Rock. Rock still wins most of these. He's the final boss. All right. Anyway, Houston Rockets, your current number 2 seed, won a game a couple days ago against the Jazz. And I don't know what you guys think of their place in the standings right now in the West, but the Rockets with 8 games remaining, like I said, 2 seed, 1.5 currently up on the Nuggets. That feels a little not super precarious, but they do have a game coming up against the Nuggets, so anything can happen there. But what I do think we can say is them being a actual playoff team, a top 6 seed that doesn't have to go through the play-in is an absolute lock. At this point, they are up 5.5 on the Clippers with 8 games to go. That's a lock. I mean, they're not dropping down past them. And they hold a 3.5 game lead on the Grizzlies, who are the current 5 seed, and they have the tiebreaker on the Grizzlies. So this really does feel like that it's, top 4 seed at least, which obviously big because that guarantees home court in the first round. Lakers at 4. Lakers, I guess, could pass them because there's a game remaining against the Lakers. But again, it is a 3.5 game lead over them as well. So I feel pretty confident the Rockets at worst will be the 3 seed. But as you're looking at the remaining schedule, the standings right now, Sean, like what would you guess would be where the Rockets finish?
I think that they'll be a top 4 seed. I think that's kind of
You think the Lakers could pass them?
The Lakers could pass them just because they have 2 games remaining.
It's 2 games. Yeah, I thought it was just 1. Okay.
They have 2 remaining with the Lakers. And you look at how the Rockets end their schedule. They end their schedule with just the entirety of the West playoff picture. So the month of April, this is just the month of April. They play the Jazz on the 2nd. Okay.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Thunder on the 4th. Probably
now the Thunder might be
resting.
Yeah.
Then they end their season with at the Warriors, at the Clippers, at the Lakers, home against the Nuggets.
That's a little rough.
So it's not just rough. It's going to be teams that are still fighting for playoff seeds and teams still fighting for playoff seeds against you. Like
right, they're directly against you. Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much they'll be kind of playing around with seeding and trying to get matchups in the West, because everyone's so tightly packed in there that you can't really mess around trying to lose a game to get a better matchup because, well, you might lose a game and then lose another one. Now you're the 7th seed. Like, congrats. Now you're in the play-in. So I think it's going to be very tough for the Rockets to kind of like coast into the playoffs. Like, they're going to have to
there's going to be no resting.
Yeah, they're going to have to run through the tape on this just because all the other teams around them are going to run through the tape. And if anything, if you're the Lakers, if you're the Warriors, if you're any of these teams, maybe not Memphis, they have other things going on. But if you're a team in the West, I think the team you want to play out of this group is the Rockets.
Yeah, I would also
maybe the Clippers.
I was about to say the Clippers is the other team I would like.
But they also might be the 7th seed. So you can't
you
can't really try to play the Clippers because they need to then win the play-in game.
But I think everybody wants to play the Rockets based solely on just the fact that it's just like age and
experience.
Like inexperience in like the playoffs. But I mean, they're one of the most well-rounded.
And the way they can defend, I get that why they would want to take on a team that's largely comprised, at least with the guys in the rotation of, 21, 22-year-olds. Obviously, Fred and Dylan Brooks bucked the age a little bit, but I don't know the way the Rockets can defend, the way they can get up and down the court. Like, who wants to try to run with Amin Thompson and Jalen Green, as athletic and quick as those guys are? I don't know if it's like if I'm the Lakers or a team that's comprised of guys in their mid-30s, like the Clippers. Like, I don't know if I want to run with the Rockets.
No, so to the standings. I think the Nuggets will overtake the 2, so we'll fall to the 3, which I'm okay with, because if the playoffs started today and we were the 3, we would play the Clippers, and I would much rather play the Clippers as the 3 seed than play the Warriors as the 2 seed.
Is that the team you fear the most? Because it's
not the team that I fear the most. It's just we have very little success against the Warriors.
As a potential 2, like if let's say you're 2 of the 3, because I'll in this hypothetical, I'm assuming they're going to be the 2 or the 3. But of those potential, 2-7 or 2-7 or 3-6 matchups, the one I want the least is the Warriors, just because we've seen how much they dominate. I mean, they got the one win against them during the in-season tournament, but the Warriors have won every other game, and obviously their dominance has gone back even further than just this season. It just feels like a really bad matchup for the Rockets.
Yeah, and Jimmy, we've seen what Jimmy can do in the playoffs. Like, there's nobody on the Clippers that terrifies me more than Steph and Jimmy on the same team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's also played out just with the Warriors' record with both Steph and Jimmy Butler in the lineup since the trade is just incredible. Like, they win like 85% of their games when those guys play. So they are kind of a different, like, they might be the 7 or 6 seed, but they are way better than that when they're completely healthy, or when they have those guys available and on their team. So yeah, I think Clippers and Grizzlies are the 2 teams that you should want to play. Those are the 2 teams that if they play the Rockets, I think the Rockets have not just a favor, like I would favor them in. I think they have a good shot of winning those games.
The Clippers and who?
The Grizzlies.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. And they have obviously won the season series against the Grizzlies. So it feels like I know your answer to this, but is the seed, like getting the highest seed possible, or getting the right matchup more important to you, Sean?
Getting the right matchup. This isn't a team, because the seeding really comes into
now, if you're the 2 seed, obviously you guarantee yourself home court in the second round. So that would be the rebuttal to that.
But you got to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's the thing. This isn't a team like a veteran late, like the Celtics or something, where like they're going to be the 2 seed. They could be the 3 seed. Doesn't really matter. Like, they're just going to cruise. This is a bunch of guys' first time in the playoffs, and not having the like home game 7, like that just doesn't really mean that much to me. It is more about getting a matchup that you feel comfortable with, and not having to play like Nikola Jokic in the first round, or not having to play Steph and the Warriors in the first round. It is, can you get a matchup against a Clippers team that is led by James Harden, who
choking dog.
Does Houston know about James Harden's playoff?
Do we know his track record?
Maybe if he does it on another team, Rockets fans will realize that.
Maybe we can bring Manu back on a one-day contract. Yeah, so can block him in the playoffs again.
And then you have Kawhi Leonard, who hasn't finished a postseason since the bubble. He hasn't
been that long.
Yeah,
I was gonna say pre-bubble, but
he hasn't played the last game of the Clippers season since the bubble.
Wow.
So that's a team that you should want to play, and then the other team that I'd most want to play is the team that fired the coach yesterday.
Let's talk about that, because I'm not a guy who watches a lot of regular season NBA outside of the Rockets.
You don't?
No. It's just like, look, there's you only got so much bandwidth, right? You got the Astros, you got football. I mean,
you have the Roughnecks.
Exactly, the Roughnecks. I got my college football 25 dynasties. I got to get going.
Got to play that game every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, God, it feels like it these days. I got my shows I want to get in. I just finished Paradise. I'm now starting Adolescence on Netflix.
Paradise City?
No. Why? Why are you trying to derail? See, okay, Cam Smith, put yourself on timeout. But like, I don't watch a ton of regular season NBA games, so I feel like there's maybe some context that I'm missing here. But from the outside looking in, Memphis firing their coach 2 weeks before the playoffs start when they're the freaking 5th seed, and John Morant, like they're only you could argue they're only the 5th seed because John Morant's missed a third of the season. I don't like find me, Sean. I mean, help me out here.
Okay.
What's the logic in this move? Now there might be no logic, so that's fine if that's the answer. But I can't understand what the thinking is here with Memphis.
I think that they just have a different view of their team than we do, of like outside looking in. Like they very clearly don't believe in this team as much as their kind of record would suggest, because they're a team that at the trade deadline, again, they're in this tightly packed Western Conference race. They traded away a rotation piece to save money at the deadline coming into the season. Taylor Jenkins was thought of as being a guy who's like, oh, kind of on the hot seat, which was surprising.
Which is crazy because didn't he have like the 4th best odds to win Coach of the Year? Like I don't.
Like yesterday, he did. yesterday when we woke up, he had the 4th best odds to win Coach of the Year. But they obviously just have a different assessment of the job that he's been doing, and maybe it's something behind the scenes where he's super hard to get along with or something. Like more stuff can come out.
There has to be something behind the scenes because it feels like I hear what you're saying. Like maybe this team is not where they'd hoped it'd be, but it doesn't make sense on the court.
And even if, like they fire this guy after losing in 6 to the Rockets in the first round, or losing, maybe they even win a playoff series and they lose to the Thunder or something. Then firing the coach, it would be still a little strange, but you could like understand like, oh, okay, they obviously just weren't satisfied with what this guy was doing. To do it on March 28th, 2 weeks before the playoffs start, when you are the 5 seed still alive to be the 2 seed, that is the part where you're like, what like that's where he had to have been. There had to be behind the scenes like strife, like because they fired 2 assistant coaches as well, so it can't, or at least I don't think it could be like a specific type of scandal involving
like an Ime
yes,
situation, right?
because you wouldn't fire the assistants.
You wouldn't fire the assistants if someone's sleeping with someone.
Yeah. So I to me it must just be that he and the front office just aren't aligned, or maybe him and John Morant aren't aligned. But that also would be surprising because you hear the whispers of that come out before the firing
on social media from Ja.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's the crazy thing too, because when I heard this news, like I hit social media and I was like scrolling through like all this stuff, and it's like everybody outside of Memphis was like, "What are they doing?" But then everybody, like all these like Memphis fans on Twitter, were like, "Oh, thank God, we're gonna barbecue now that he's been fired." And I'm just kind of like, was he really that hated in Memphis, and nobody outside of there like realized that? Because that's kind of like that's the sense that I get.
I'd be very surprised if we don't in either this weekend or next week get like the full behind the scenes feature from whatever the Memphis Grizzlies athletic.com writer or something, like the Memphis newspaper writes the kind of like, here's why they fired this guy. Because we got 3 weeks ago of that when Dallas fired or when they traded away Luka Doncic. They got like 3 weeks of trying to explain why they did this. I think.
Oh, was Memphis's coach? He got a little fat, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
He likes smoking cigarettes too much.
Exactly.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, Taylor Jenkins was seen at a hookah bar right before a game. No, but there will be some sort of like, here's kind of the organizational stance on this.
Right.
It is just such a head scratching move that it leads to pretty reckless speculation.
Absolutely. All right. On the other side of the break, we get to Mount Rushmore +1, ESPN Radio 97.5, 92.5. Don't go anywhere. Welcome in, Houston, to the best part of your weekend. It is time for the award-winning, groundbreaking, sports radio landscape-changing segment, Mount Rushmore Plus One, that'll land the four of us in the Texas Radio Hall of Fame in far less than 27 years. It is time for Mount Rushmore Plus One. We missed you on this segment, Sean.
Oh, yeah?
This is obviously a Mapes McDonald joint, so we missed you on it. Glad to have you back. Now, we're not going to hear your list right now. Okay. Because since you're back, you will main event, as main event Mapes will do.
Okay, I like The Rock. I only show up sometimes now, but I still get to main event. Boss? I am the final boss.
Okay, that's interesting. All right,
see these goosebumps?
You're gonna every time you should do that every time you come on the air, where they just start pounding the floor.
I can only do that once a month, so yeah, that really hurt.
All right, Cam, you want to lead us off here? Or are you scrolling to find something here? You need me?
No, I have something.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
So I decided to do Rockets players that weren't necessarily great, but they gave us moments of just exhilaration.
Okay.
Just
the people's champs.
Yeah.
People's champs, yes.
So in no particular order, but in first place.
But
that sounds like that's an order, Cam.
No, just
I don't want to nitpick here.
There's a number one.
First name, Von Wafer.
Yeah,
Ooh,
Von Wafer. Good old Von Wafer.
He's not a cracker. He's not a cookie.
He's a Von Wafer.
He's Von Wafer.
No, he was fun to watch, and then that whole hairstyle. I think that launched a lot of people into getting that little
ill-advised haircuts.
Yes, that was one.
After like one 30-point game against the Lakers or whatever he had. Yeah.
Yep, I can attest to that.
Wait, did you try out the hairstyle?
The little faux hawk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids on my basketball team that had that.
Okay, all right.
This is one of my personal favorites, Stromile Swift.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
man,
the fact that he would,
Stromile.
I loved him.
hated Stromile.
The funny thing was, I won a NBA 2K tournament and like $200 on a 18-foot turnaround Stromile Swift shot. Yes, and
jump shots were not his game.
I have never seen somebody so mad.
Yeah,
I would
in my life than the guy that lost me.
Rightfully
so. What was his field goals rating? Like 52?
It was horrible. I don't know why I chose him to take that shot, but it worked out. Obviously this one he's a little more famous, but Lynn Sanity. There was a good little run there with Jeremy.
You and I see the Rockets very differently because I hated Stromile and I hated Jeremy Lin.
I'm not saying I love Jeremy, but that Lynn Sanity was a good.
But Lynn Sanity was with the Knicks.
Yeah, but
when it carried over.
When he got
all
here,
right,
people were excited.
Yeah,
all right.
Some that might have been run off from Yao Ming fans, but
The next one, Mike James.
Who?
Oh, Mike.
And that was only because when Mike James came to the team, that's when that whole Mike Jones was starting to trend in Houston. So, and then the last one, and this is solely because he squared up against Karl Malone. Boston Knockbar.
Bokeh.
Boston Knockbar, yeah.
I actually have a bobble. They gave out a bobblehead the next season where it's Bokeh holding the basketball, but his other hand has a piece of purple jersey in it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, from the altercation. Yeah, I saw the bobblehead. Yeah. Yeah, I love Bokeh. I mean, he, like you said, he wasn't a guy that did a whole lot for the Rockets, but that little scuffle with Karl Malone will always live in it. Yeah, will always legendary. A couple. Do you have any names you want to add to that, Sean? Because I have a couple of names. Like Chuck, the Chuck Wagon.
Yeah, Chuck Hayes.
Chuck Hayes was one of my favorites.
Yeah, Rafer Alston might be too good for this.
I almost thought about putting on there just for the fact that
is Luis Scola too good for this?
Yeah,
he's
he was like the best player on the team.
That was very average teams. They're the 41 and 41 years.
Yeah, those 3 years that they had the 14th pick every year.
Yeah.
I mean, like Bobby Brown more recently. Is the last guy on the roster whose job was to be James Harden's friend.
I liked Bob Sura.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about good old Bob. Yeah,
Bob Sura's
he was a working man's NBA player.
Chase Budinger in that dunk contest.
Oh, the volleyball player. Yeah, the volleyball player.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, he's an Olympic volleyball player.
Yeah, he was actually in the beach volleyball in the Olympics.
Is Scotty Brooks too good to be in this?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. He
just want to throw you one.
Oh, thank you. So you beat. See, if the right answer there was Pete Chilcutt, that was the correct answer. If you wanted to pander to my age, do you have any idea who Pete Chilcutt is?
No. Was he your neighbor?
No. Yeah, and he also happened to be on the '94 Rockets.
Who was the guy that played for Illinois that had like the duck feet? His feet
Luther Head.
There it is.
Yeah, Luther Head.
Like his feet were always like this when he shot. Like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, Luther Head was fun. I enjoyed him as well. All right, so My Mount Rushmore +1, as someone who just finished season 1 of Paradise. Don't worry, Cam, I won't spoil it for you. Although I don't believe you're actually going to watch it.
I will.
As much as I bugged you, Sean. You finished it,
seen
right?
it, yeah.
Okay. So a big part of that show, well, I guess not a huge part of the show, but something that gets mentioned in that show sometimes are the code names that different people, like the president is known as Wildcat. Samantha is known as Sinatra. So there's code names in there for various people, mostly that are in like the presidential office and the cabinet around the president. But I came up with code names for the ESPN 97.5 hosts that if they were in Paradise, this would be their presidential code name.
Do you have an occupation for them, like being Secret Service or
I can maybe try to think of that on the fly, but I didn't. I just went with.
You can throw yours out there, Sean.
Huh?
He can throw whatever he thinks their occupation should be out there.
Oh yeah. If you want to chime in, Sean, with what you think their occupation would be,
if I can do it.
So I'll start with the show that I work on, 3 to 6 with the Killer Bees. Joel Blank, codename Badger.
Yeah.
Not only he's a Wisconsin guy, he was a fan of Wisconsin, but Badger also fits his personality. He's a little ornery. He gets riled up quite a bit. He's a guy that's known to be pretty persistent. I think Badger is not only something that fits him where he's from, who he is, but also his personality. So I'll go Badger for Joel Blank.
Because the president was Wildcat because he went to Kentucky.
Yeah.
And I see him as a Billy Pace type Secret Service.
Okay. So he's gonna. Well, I don't want to say.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Don't
No spoilers.
This is for the real heads. He's like Billy Pace. Stream it on Hulu to get that joke.
No, seriously, watch the show. It's damn good. It's okay. Quickly, episode 7. Holy bleep! Were they actually the episode the day of?
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Tremendous.
God. Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Mount Rushmore +1 of Paradise code names for the host here at ESPN 97.5. Jeremy Branham, codename Mayo, for his love of Will Levis. I know I'm taking a little bit of a shot there. That'll be for the real ones that have gone back with us for a couple years. But and I also think it kind of fits Jeremy's personality. I'm not calling him bland, but he's not spicy with the personality, right? Like he's not he's not like loud and outspoken and outlandish and over the top. He's a little more reserved. He's a little more Mayo. So Mayo for Jeremy Branham. You have a job that you would give to
yeah, probably like communications officer.
That feels about right. Yeah, that feels about right.
Head of propaganda.
All right, Dell. Code word jaded.
That's just an adjective.
I almost went with mopey, but I was like, no, I mean, Granado uses mopey and makes for you guys' show. But I was trying to think. At first, I thought over it because if I think of Dell and his thought process for most things, he's just over it. Or whatever the topic is, he's just over it. But I was like, I don't really want to go 2 words or like a phrase. So I was like, you know what, jaded.
Okay.
What, am I wrong?
No.
Okay. All right. So what's Dell's job there on Paradise?
That's a tough one. That's tough. I don't have a good one for that.
Can't find a job for Dell, huh?
No, I really can't.
All right. Lance.
Sorry.
Codename now.
He's the librarian.
So you're putting
for Dell. Yeah.
Okay, for the real ones.
Yeah.
All right.
That's like season or episode 8.
Yeah, that's okay. Lance, code word. Now this is 2. The last 2 are 2 because I just whatever. But Lance, code word fall risk.
Yeah.
We know Lance has a
walrus.
Fall risk.
Oh,
fall, not walrus. That would be completely different. Maybe we could codename him Walrus, and the real ones would know it's actually fall risk. No, but we know Lance's propensity to hurt himself while walking through parking lots, walking while playing disc golf and other things, twisting the ankle in times when most humans would not. So, it's helpful to identify who Lance is, and it's also helpful, like, hey, we need to keep an eye on this guy.
Yeah, extra set of eyes.
Yeah, so what is Lance's job?
Vice president.
He's a little panicky. Well,
of America?
Yeah. He's a little panicky on that show. Kind of gets put in his place a little bit, but all right, we'll go with that one. And last but not least, John Granado. There's many nicknames we could go for. Godfather
Sinatra.
would be Sinatra,
which
Godfather.
Is also work.
Because you cross John, you might got, which that fits with Sinatra. But I'm going to go John Granado, codename Blue Mountains. We know what time it is with John Granado. It's always time for Coors Light
and president.
Yeah, he's obviously the president of the scenario.
James Marsden.
He's James Marsden in this show.
Or
all right.
Whatever.
Sean Mapes, main event this bad boy.
Okay. My triumphant return is a Mount Rushmore that maybe needs a little bit of explanation. There's a common prompt online inspired by A Muppet Christmas Carol, the movie A Muppet Christmas Carol.
Good one.
Okay,
John's excited.
I
saw his head whip up.
I haven't seen it. Okay.
Okay, but you know the general idea of it.
Yeah, I've heard of the Muppets. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
I don't think I've watched the movie. Though.
Where Michael Caine plays Ebenezer Scrooge. He is the only human in this Charles Dickens classic. Every other character is played by a Muppet.
Okay.
Mount Rushmore +1 of movies where every part except for one could be played by a Muppet.
Wow. How did you even come up with this?
Oh, there's so many. Okay.
First up, The Matrix. But Keanu Reeves is the human.
I was about to say, who's the human? So Mr. Smith and Lawrence Fishburne, all these guys are Muppets.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Oh, okay. I thought you literally found movies where
No,
only
no,
one.
no,
That's why I was like, how
no.
hard did you have to look for this?
I don't just be listing Muppet movies.
Yeah, I don't know if there would be 5.
All right. Interstellar with McConaughey's character being the only human.
I like it.
This one's hard. I couldn't come up with the character. There's a couple good options for this one. The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh my god!
I think the Warden.
Andy Dufresne is the human.
See, I was thinking the Warden, and Kermit plays Andy Dufresne.
Okay, all right, I'm fine
if
with
you're
that.
casting this, because I think the villain being the only human is powerful.
Yeah, but some of the scenes that Andy Dufresne finds himself in, if it's replaced by Kermit, it's a little.
I mean, there's a little. I mean, how does Kermit talk?
Who would play Morgan Freeman?
Good question. Fozzie Bear.
Correct answer. Yes, I will accept that.
Yeah. Maybe
Waka, Andy Dufresne.
Maybe Gonzo. I don't know. They can both try out for it. Pulp Fiction.
Okay. All right. He's the human.
This was another tough one. I landed on John Travolta's character being the only human just because he goes on a date with a woman that would be played by Miss Piggy.
Well, see,
John
Travolta should be played by Kermit then.
No, but I think him dancing with Miss Piggy is very funny.
That is very funny. See, I thought you were going to say Samuel Jackson.
And then accidentally shooting a Muppet in the backseat.
Brad's dead.
Just the felt coming out.
I kind of want it to be actually a very minor character in the movie. I want the wolf to be the only human, where you see nothing, where you see nothing but humans for 90% of the movie, and all of a sudden Brad's head gets exploded, and all of a sudden here comes Harvey Keitel as the wolf to clean things up.
That works, and that rolls into my next movie. The Wolf of Wall Street, with Leo being the only human.
All right, so who's Margot Robbie in this? Miss Piggy?
Miss Piggy, yeah. Easy.
Some of those scenes aren't quite as hot as they used to be.
No,
I'll just say that.
Yeah. I have a lot of. I just.
Was that 5?
That was 5, and I wrote down probably 5 more. Maybe that's just another.
Yeah, tell me in the break, or tell me the next time you're on.
I was gonna say I might just make this.
What you do every
might
time
just do a
you're
sequel.
On. All right. Part 2 of movies played by 99% Muppets.
Here's a
one
teaser because I can come up with these all day. Oppenheimer.
Ooh, okay.
The father of the bomb is Kermit the Frog.
I still haven't seen that one.
Einstein's the only real guy.
Spoiler alert, they dropped the bomb.
Oh, what?
Yeah, all right. ESPN Radio 97.5, 92.5. One segment left of the show, what we love in sports this week and the worst people in sports this week. That's next. Don't go anywhere.
Broadcasting live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios, it's the Bullpen on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
ESPN Radio 97.5, 92.5. Welcome back in. Final segment of the Bullpen this week. Brian McDonald, Cam Smith, Sean Mapes, John Belmer with you. And a quick programming note, next week, April 5th, we will not be on. Aggie seasons may be over, but we're allowed to air a couple of Astro games on Saturdays throughout this season. And next Saturday will be one of them. So no Bullpen on April 5th, but we'll be back on the 12th and the 19th of April. But now let's finish up the show with our worst people in sports, and after that, what we love from sports this week. Let's start with the Anger Sharks, my worst person in sports this week, for making me sit through the story for what feels like 5 months at this point. But Stephen A. Smith, my worst person in sports this week. A couple of pieces of audio from this feud with LeBron James we're going to hear right now. First, Stephen A. Smith responding to LeBron going on the Pat McAfee show and making a joke about him wearing tidy whities.
Tidy whities comment was funny because I don't wear tidy whities. Let you figure out why that is.
What are you trying to say, Stephen A? Trying to say you're bringing heat? What, you can't wear tidy whities? Well, first off, honestly, unless you're 90 years old, who is actually wearing tidy? I feel like tidy whities have died out.
Yeah.
Unless you're over a certain age.
I was gonna say 90-year-olds or like 6-year-olds.
Yeah, like anyone in between. I don't think anyone's actually wearing tidy whities, but I love that he responds to the joke.
Got to get point by point my rebuttal.
Hey, LeBron, I know you said I got no life, but check out this package. Am I right? Am I right? All right, this next piece of audio, I think the most ludicrous moment of this feud with LeBron James. This in regards to the confrontation that we saw on the court between LeBron and Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith says in this clip, if LeBron had put hands on him that night, he might have fired back.
That man put his hands on me, I would have immediately swung on him. Immediately.
No, the hell you would not. There is nothing I feel more confident in saying that Stephen A. Smith in no situation would have swung on LeBron James.
Also,
short of literally he's about to die and it's his only chance to survive, which of course is crazy.
Also, the idea that LeBron would have had to strike first. And that there would be some sort of counter punch.
Right, Stephen A. Smith would take said punch and be able to fire back with a counter. Yeah. Yes, yeah. It's so dumb. Yeah, Stephen A. Smith is going to risk his career and try to fight a 6'9", 250-pound man in his athletic,
who's 20 years younger.
20 years younger than him. I think that was the most ridiculous part of this 3-week saga so far with LeBron. Stephen A. Smith going on his YouTube page and saying he was going to swing on LeBron. All right, Cam, who is your worst person?
I don't really have one, to be honest.
Clean week? Yeah. Clean week from everybody?
Week. No hate in your heart? No anger sharks swimming around?
No.
All right,
I mean, it's the week of your major league debut.
I guess his worst person in sports is Hunter Brown because he hates Hunter Brown.
Yeah, he hates his guy.
He hates Hunter Brown.
Not facts.
All right.
My worst person in sports is the NCAA.
Oh.
The whatever the NCAA stands for, National Collegiate Athletic Association, for denying
exactly what it stands for.
Well, I was going to make a joke, and then I just couldn't think of it.
Nice bill.
For denying the proposed spring game between Colorado and Syracuse. Fran Brown threw out there that he could potentially schedule, or he'd be open to scheduling a spring game against Colorado, having basically a joint practice.
I like that.
That ends with the scrimmage.
Right. Instead of the black versus white game where it's the first team versus the second
exactly.
team. Yeah.
But the NCAA has denied their motion to do something cool.
Yeah, that would be cool because I'm not saying I've never watched the Texas Orange White game. I usually end up watching it, but I'd much rather see them have a scrimmage against some random team on the West Coast or whatever.
After 2 weeks, guess what? It'd be nice to hit someone else for once.
Thank you. Yes. All right. Well, now that we're done swimming with the Anger Sharks, let's quickly move over to the Sea of Tranquility. Go ahead and doggy paddle over there and talk about what we love from sports this week. What I love from sports this week was University of Houston, their Twitter account clapping back at some rando on Twitter who tweeted out before the game against Purdue, quote, "You think I'm scared of a guy named Kevin Sampson?" Of course, they quote tweeted this with the graphic of it, and Houston replied, "The name is Kelvin, and he just delivered the L that you forgot." Oh,
boom!
That was clean.
Boom,
roasted.
Got him. Love that from the UH Twitter account. Cam, what do you love this week?
I could be wrong on the team, but I'm pretty sure it's Norfolk State's head coach where they interviewed him after the game. Was it him?
Yes.
Yeah, and they were because basically Norfolk State was
they're 30-point
underdog, and he was like,
right.
"See, I told you we wouldn't lose by 30."
Because he spent time before the games like, I can't believe the spread is this high.
Yeah, he said, I can't believe we're 30-point underdogs to Florida. They go, or whoever they played, they go out and they lose by like 26.
27,
and he goes, told you we weren't 30-point underdogs.
You know what? Credit to him. Nailed it. Sean,
Yes.
what'd you love from sports?
I loved Cleveland Guardians starting pitcher Tanner Beebe for having one of those personal interest stories during spring training where they said that he eats Chipotle before every start that he makes in his major league career. Unfortunately, on Thursday, he was scratched from his. He was going to be the opening starter due to food poisoning.
Oh, gotcha.
So he had
the
Chipotle
burrito with extra guac, extra sour cream.
It did not agree with them.
We've all had those moments with Chipotle. All right, we got to get out. Again, no show next week. Astros baseball on these airwaves. We'll be back on April 12th. Have a great weekend, Houston.